We are going to discuss some changes that were made to the California budget when the governor made revisions in May. We're going to be discussing two different priorities in the governor's January budget. We will discuss what changed for those priorities in the May revision and how it changed overall in the enacted budget. Priority 1 for the governor's budget is early child education. TK expansion is a huge focus. It is a program for 4-year-olds to prepare them for kindergarten, and this would strengthen early learning and prepare children for long-term academic success. It also really supports equity by providing access to high-quality early education for all families. These are some budget numbers I found. $2.4 billion for full implementation of universal TK, $1.5 billion allocated to lower student to adult ratio in the classrooms. Again, that would also really help with high quality education. $4.4 billion total for expanded learning opportunities. This would be before and after school, summer school programs for TK. And this was the most awesome part that I saw, nearly $1 billion school meals served across the statewide. That means children can focus on learning and they don't have to worry about being hungry. So yeah, total funding for TK through 12 education would be $137.1 billion total. What were some differences between the governor's original budget and revisions in May? The total money originally allocated for schools was $137.8 billion. Where does it come from? $80.5 billion is general fund, that would be state money. $57.3 billion would be federal, local, or special programs. Proposition 98 guaranteed that $114.6 billion would be the minimum money that state would guarantee for schools. So overall, the difference in the budget was $4.6 billion from the original budget in January. I love this picture that I included. I love the governor's vision for equity and education, and I think this picture perfectly illustrates that. Priority 2 is housing and homelessness. The governor's budget discussed building momentum off of previous efforts of housing production from 70,000 houses a year to over 115,000 houses a year. I was not able to find an exact number of how much money this costs, but if you know how much it costs to build housing, it is really expensive. So I would imagine it's in the billions, maybe 100 millions. And for homelessness, they have allocated $100 million for Encampment Resolution Fund, which is in the form of grants. Local governments must meet state housing rules to get this funding. Monthly reporting and regional reviews are there to track progress to make sure funds are being used appropriately. For housing and homelessness, the May revision budget numbers reflected that $4.2 million was reduced to $4 million, $6.4 million was reduced to $6.2 million, $6.2 million was reduced to $6.1 million, and $322,000 for 25-26 was increased to $2.3 million for 26-27 and ongoing years. Then they discussed how they, address this budget issue. And they ended up taking money that they found was not being used from previous projects. That is the reversion of unexpended program funding, specifically for the affordable housing. They used $31.7 million, and I thought that this was actually a really great example of the whole point of all of this, why we were learning this week about budgeting and why there is committees and experts in these different positions, because just like things like this, there was a budget deficit, and because of these experts, they were able to find $31.7 million that had not been being used. And that money was for previous projects for the years 21, 22, and 2023. So that's a lot of money that's just sitting there. But thankfully, because things like this exist and they are crucial, this money is now being used appropriately and it's not just being there wasted.